Welcome to the Patrick Real Estate Show, where we explore the fascinating world of real estate investing with your host, Patrick Switek. Patrick is a dynamic young entrepreneur and an accomplished real estate investor who's passionate about helping others achieve financial freedom. Each week, we sit down with some of the most inspiring individuals in the real estate industry and delve into their personal journeys, lessons learned, and secrets to their success. Let's dive into this week's episode.
Welcome, JJ King, to the Patrick Real Estate Show. The people that don't know JJ is honestly probably one of the most involved community members when it comes to big time STR operators. He's a big advocate for them as well. Recently got a position with VRMA, young guy, crushing it. He's got 250 units right now in Florida. And they're just onboarding a 90 unit condo, I believe, that they're going to do fully. So they're going to get to over 300 units. And he's awesome. He's always great to talk to at conferences. I always enjoy talking high level with him. And he's just a young killer that's crushing the game. So I'm pumped to have him on the pod. But without further ado, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me, Patrick.
Yeah, man. So what was up with JJ prior to stumbling across this big commitment of 250, almost going on to 300 units?
Yeah, so it's, Beachside VR kind of started out almost as a side hustle, and I think a lot of people in the industry probably start like that, right? Where they're doing just a couple of units here, a couple of units there, and then realize, wow, there's some money in this, right? And they start growing more. So my partner Riley and I started this. He started with an 8-unit apartment complex that he had kind of transitioned and made into short-term rentals, and had reached out to me. He knew I was in the industry already, and so reached out, and we kind of started doing a couple of things there. Made a website, got on some of the listing channels, and that sort of thing.
Do you mind sharing what you did in the industry?
Sure. Yeah. So I got my start managing short-term rentals in New York City, actually. So I studied hospitality management in college and worked a bunch of different jobs, from front desk at a resort, and doing fine dining in a country club, working at another hotel, and it just kind of saw the career progression in general hospitality as being kind of a long game, right? Like, you have to move around a lot, and eventually after you put your time in, you might get to be a front desk supervisor or something like that. And I wanted to be somewhere faster, right? So I moved to New York City, and just super random answered a Craigslist ad to help somebody manage Airbnb apartments in New York City. And we started with 15 units there and just quickly blew it up and started kind of becoming more professionalized, more building into a hospitality brand. And so that's really how I got started in the industry. Great experience, great learning experience. And I love the kind of entrepreneurial aspect of everything in the vacation rental, the short-term rental industry, where it's mostly small businesses. Sure, there's some larger corporate companies, but for the most part, it's small businesses where the owner of the business has the decision to make stuff happen, right? So things happen a lot quicker in our industry compared to traditional hospitality, where you've got a hotel and maybe the owners of the hotel, and that could be like a corporate conglomerate, and you're not going to make changes in those larger things. So going small scale, you're able to make changes, grow faster, implement technology, all of that fun stuff, which has drawn me to the industry. So that's how I got started.
Dang. Well, that's awesome, man. So you met up with Riley, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you met up with Riley. I spoke to him at the conference briefly, but what was the conversation like? Like, what did you guys end up doing? You guys decided, okay, well, we're just gonna scale this thing in Florida. Like, where's the transition period? Like, what was that thought process?
So Riley and I actually went to high school together, and so we're high school friends, and we're kind of just texting back and forth actually during COVID of, what are you up to? What are you up to? And we hadn't talked in a while, and just found out that we both had some interest in real estate, and he had learned about what I was doing in the past and in the vacation rental space. And so we were talking. I, at the time, was working full time at Vintory, which helps you grow your property management company. So I was working there, getting a lot of great insights from other property managers and what they're doing to grow. And so I was giving him pointers with no, inspiration to start into property management again, right? I had kind of gotten burnt out from doing all of the operations in New York
Mhm.
City and said, I don't want to do any of this. So he was like, just help me get set up structurally, right? Help me get up with the website and give me some tips on how to grow, and I'll handle everything. You just need to like help me with the back end. And of course, I've seen a lot of property managers through Ventori who kind of stay at that mid-sized level mark of 20 to 50 properties. That's pretty manageable for a small single person manager to do. And so I kind of thought that's where it would end up was I help him a little bit get set up and he stays at about 20 properties and everybody's happy. And he did not have that plan. So he grew extremely fast and we basically blinked after a year and we're over 100 properties. And I had this decision to make of, I've got a full-time job or I've got this other company that I have an interest in that, I need to pay attention to this. This is a real thing. It's making real money. So, ultimately decided to dive headfirst into beachside and it's been great so far.
Dang, that's amazing. What year was this, by the way?
We started beachside 3 years ago. So that would have been, it's 2014 right now. So 2021, 2020, that time frame when we
Perfect.
started it. Yeah.
It's a good time. And it takes time to build a brand and to build what you've built. Have you been while you were building this, what how does the position you take versus Riley take? Like how do you guys structure the responsibilities that you guys work with?
Yeah, it is interesting. We don't have the traditional. uh, I'm not sure if you're familiar with EOS.
Yeah.
So having, the visionary and
Mhm.
the integrator, right? We did try going the EOS route, but unfortunately, we're both somewhat visionaries. So, I kind of fall a little bit more on the integrator side than he does, and so he ends up taking more of that visionary CEO pushing us forward. And I do find myself doing some of the integrator type of stuff, but it's also not my strong point to be a full-on COO integrator. So we do have some other great team members that kind of help, I guess, fill in some of the details that both of us are lacking, right?
Yeah.
So, but I think where we really work well together is that I'm great on the technology side and the building out processes and automations and that sort of thing, and he's great on the sales side and the kind of forward looking, moonshot type of plays that we find ourselves in sometimes. So it's been great there that we do have a perfect balance of just different complementing skill sets.
What's interesting about that is my business partner Josh is also visionary as well as I am. And we still make things work. It's not traditional, quite
Hmm.
frankly, kind of like what you were saying. I'm a little bit more of an integrator than he is in the sense that I can build systems out and build processes, but I'm not really good at the details of getting it going. I'd rather have a team member execute on that. So I feel like we're in a similar boat in that retrospect. But what's interesting about that, we did hire a COO. So she's kind of like our integrator. So it's funny, it's two visionaries and one integrator.
Yeah.
But it's not like this is the way to do it. So there's a lot of ways to go about it. So I like the way that you guys take a non-conventional approach and it works.
When did you make that hire? That was recent, wasn't
That was, well, everything for me was recent. If you really think
it?
about it, I've scaled in the last year and a half. So in a year and a half, I've scaled from five of my own to 100. So that's where I'm at right now.
Amazing.
And we hired her because we knew we were gonna acquire the third company. And as we knew we were gonna acquire the third company, we hired her on, and it dragged out the acquisition. And so she was just helping us with the first company, and then now she's helping us merge the two companies together, which is kind of funny. But yeah, we hired her like I think like almost a year ago actually by now. So she's great. So within 6 months of owning the business, we're like, yep, we need an integrator. But
Yeah,
I'm
and
sure you
there's
guys know that.
no kind of like playbook for that, right? Like I
Yeah.
had mentioned EOS, and there is somewhat of a playbook for EOS of here's the integrator's role and here's the visionary's role. But then it gets interesting when, like you
Mhm.
said, the two partners of the business are both kind of tend more to be the visionary. types.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's a great hire for you guys to have a COO.
Oh yeah, that was huge for us. But I'm curious for you guys, because as you guys were scaling, what were the key things that you guys noticed were most instrumental to your growth? Because
Relationships, yeah,
operationally, I
relationships for sure is the
relationship.
yeah. So like local networking, real estate relationships, investor relationships who are going to refer other investors. The majority of our portfolio is owners who have more than one unit,
Mm,
right? So we've got, I'd say probably 70 or 80 owners out of the 300 total units that we'll
wow.
have. So there's quite a few owners that have, 5, 10, 20 units that, so economies of scale there, right? If you can sign one investor that has 20 units, it's a lot easier to deal with that one investor than it is 20 individual owners. So
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. No, we have the opposite problem. We have a lot of people that buy vacation homes in our area slash maybe one, maybe two investment properties here and there. So we have a lot of owners for a lot of properties.
mhm.
But
Yeah, which is it's great in that regard, but then you structure slightly differently with your, if you have owner relations managers
oh
and
yeah.
that sort of thing, that now your owners relations managers have a lot more. You're gonna have to have more of them because you have more owners, right?
Yeah, you have to figure out a way to distribute that, what's happening in that respect. So curious. So relationships great, but I think from a system perspective, and I'll speak kind of to our growth, and I mean we've talked about it just in the scale group, and we've talked about this initially. But as we scaled the first, we went from 5 to 100 in under 1 year. So now in the last 6 months, we've been kind of maintaining, trimming the fat, and just building systems. Like we've realized that we were building the aircraft as we were falling from the sky, kind of thing. So, I'm curious, like how with fast scale on your end as well, like what are some of the ramifications that happened? Did you have to just put temporary systems in place and then have to redo certain things or create new systems down the line once you got to a certain point? Like I'm curious, like from your perspective, how that
That's
worked.
such an insightful question too. Yeah, we changed so much and we're still changing. We're still
Mm,
growing, we're still trying to figure out what works and what doesn't. But
yeah.
when we first started, what worked for 8 units did not work for 20 units, right? And then we got a new process going when we had 20 units, and that worked great until we got to call it 50 units, right? And then you had to
I feel
change
that.
it again and change it again.
Yeah.
And, it probably drives our team crazy that we're consistently changing processes, also changing softwares, but it has to happen for growth because things are different as you get to different sizes, different scales. We've been fortunate that we've always had laundry in-house. So that's something that we've grown and scaled with laundry, but I know I've talked to some other operators that do hit that point where your laundry costs become so expensive, or you simply can't do laundry in the units, or there's a lot of limiting factors that happen once you get to a certain scale that it makes sense to then have, your centralized laundry facility. So that's a big one that kind of has allowed us to not hit this like ceiling and in our growth is that we do all of that laundry in house and we have it centralized. And we recently bought a box truck, so now we've got a box truck, running around with the laundry around town. So things
Crazy.
like that, though, like you wouldn't think that you're going to need a box truck just driving laundry around when you have 20 units, and now it's a lot different when you've got units all over the county that you're, trying to transport laundry to.
Do you have, I think it's interesting. I think there would be like there's no playbook, but there's different points that you hit. It's and you're alluding to that as well. Like there's people that say, "Oh yeah, like the first 25, like 25 is super manageable. Like stay at 25. It's the perfect amount." And then after you get past 25, there's a marginal increase in cost like
Mhm.
for something, right? Your profit margins start going down. And eventually you get to the point where you're like 20% profit margin because you're operating so heavy because you need so much more to be able to withhold the revenue that's coming in. So it's not proportional. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, laundry, that is something that eventually hit a point. Now, I'm curious, what are the noticeable points that you hit throughout your journey when you're scaling where there was noticeable changes in your operations? Like what number of units or whatever growth?
Yeah. So we ended up December of last year, we got a really big deal for a condo hotel that
Mm,
was 70 units. And so that kind of all came at once. So that's
mm,
where that kind of pivotal moment for us. I think we were probably around 100 and then added 70 at once. So then we went from 100 to 170. And so obviously things changed a lot with having basically a whole hotel with its own set of staff, and so that changed operations a lot for us. But yeah, I would say that probably the 20 unit mark, the 50 unit mark, and then 100, 150. But I think once you get to 150, like you had kind of mentioned, that you do end up having a lot more expenses and you've got a lot more staff to run that. But then you're pretty much good until you get to maybe 250, right? Like after you've made all those hires, then it's a matter of you can add a lot more and kind of keep that same staff there, because things don't change that much when you get to that level. And then I think they're probably
yeah.
going to change again after we get to past the 300 mark, because that's a second hotel for us plus our single family operations. So, we're going to have another set of kind of on-site hotel staff. So we'll have two on-site hotel staffs and then all individual stuff in centralized communications for guest services
Mhm.
and the sort. So
Damn. Yeah. I feel that too within my own business. I'm like, okay, well, at one point we hit, I think it was like, I don't know how much it was. It was like 50 or something. That was like a big moment for us where we hit 50. We're like, "Whew, okay, we need to do something about, I forgot what it was, but there's always something. But I think when we hit 100, that's when we or like 70, 80, something like there to 100, like that area. We had to get an office. We had to get an office space, not only centralized for people to stay at and to work. That was kind of a fun part of it, but it was mostly for storage. We
yeah,
just needed a central place to store because we kept storing in people's garages, and we're like, dude, this is not going to work at this level, and you have to iterate on the system, and we have a whole centralized location for supplies. Now we make money on supplies so that it pays for the office space, and we're not making money like we're ripping our owners off. We're just like a little bit of money to cover the cost of shipping it all and all that. So but it's control. Like we need more control. Like I mean, I don't know if you realize the same thing, but as you grow bigger, having more control means less issues happening overall, which means less headaches, which means less turbulence, which means better, smoother operations, and you can tolerate it more. Versus if everything started going off and there's emergencies everywhere, you'd be fucked. So it's
right.
like, how do you eliminate emergencies within your business to keep it all smooth sailing?
That, if you could make just eliminate all issues, the vacation rental business would be so easy, right? But that's not going to happen. That's the hardest part about this business, is that there's always something new that pops up.
It's always an emergency
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. No, we had just last month, 2 months ago, we had just a truck off of the street run into one of our homes. Just ram
Mm,
into the side of the building, messed up the foundation and structural issues. Luckily, there was no guests there. There were no injuries or anything. But so now, a normal slow Tuesday afternoon now is this panic of, okay, well, we've got guests checking in tomorrow. We got to move this reservation somewhere else and all this stuff. So there's always something, you
yeah.
know?
You guys get sued?
No, I mean, we didn't, it wasn't anything to do with us, and
No, no, no. But
guests
just
weren't
in
involved.
general, like, have you guys gotten sued by
Oh,
guests?
have we gotten sued? I thought you were saying in
Like,
that
not you guys,
scenario.
but just the owners
Yes,
or whoever.
we've gotten threatened to be sued a couple of
Mm.
times from guests, and we had one that was a slip and fall that did bring the owner of the property into it as well. I mean, it was one of those where they're trying to sue whoever they can, and it's the property manager, the owner, the
Yeah.
HOA, like whoever is they could get a hold of, they were trying to sue. So
Well, what's one cool thing about that, JJ? Because we've gotten three already. Apparently,
wow.
California is very, very quick to sue. I don't know if that's a California thing, and maybe not as much of a Florida thing. But Here, everyone wants to sue, always. And this is just like dumb stuff. Sometimes they win, sometimes they don't. But every time we don't have to deal with it. Like we just have Airbnb step in. They've been amazing. Oh my God, Airbnb steps in and their liability protection kicks in, and it's been awesome in that regard.
Well, so
But yeah.
that's an interesting comment. So we had it was major damages to a property,
Hmm.
and essentially we had a guest that had a mental breakdown, tried to harm themselves and harm the unit at the same time. And that was an Airbnb reservation, and we got the damage protection, and they actually paid out, and it was amazing. But then it created this kind of internal fear of what if it wasn't Airbnb, right? What if it was a direct booking
Yeah.
or if it was a booking.com reservation or something like that? And yeah, that is
Hmm.
interesting. So to that point,
Hmm.
how are you protecting yourself for the liability on non-Airbnb reservations?
Well, we use a third party, but we get damage waivers, but how much does that really pay out when things get really hectic? I don't know. Thankfully, a majority of our bookings are Airbnb.
Hmm.
But yeah, that does pop. That's funny that you said that because as I was saying the story literally 3 minutes ago, I was thinking in my head, I don't know what I would do if it was not an Airbnb booking. So it's funny how
Yeah,
you read my mind almost.
yeah. We
I
have
don't know.
we have normal like business liability insurance,
Us too. Yeah.
and so I'm sure that would kick in if we were being sued. And then we're also on co-insured for all of the homeowners insurance
Yeah.
policies as well. But there is that kind of interesting middle point. So we do damage waivers, but we actually self-insure, and that's an
Mm.
interesting another part that
Oh yeah.
as you get to a certain scale, like you would never consider self-insuring if you have 5 to 20 listings. Well, I mean, maybe you would. I don't know. You'd have to run the numbers.
Maybe.
But as you have more, and then you're looking at the amount that a damage waiver costs through a third party versus the amount
Hmm.
if you charge that amount and keep it in internally in a fund for yourself, there's quite a bit of revenue there, right? So you
There's
do
a lot
take
of
the
revenue.
risk still of, this damage waiver would have covered up to $300 through a third party or $1,000, whatever it is, or I don't pay that third party and then I keep the money and then if something happens, I pay for it. Right. So that is an interesting thing that's happening in the industry now. I think that
I saw.
a lot of operators are going that route as well.
I've heard this time and time again, even from big like legacy operators. I know this lady from New Zealand, she's had like 500 plus units. Crazy, crazy. Anyway, she was saying that she does the same thing with self-insured. Like she just collects on and just pays out. And she says she rarely pays out. So, but once you get sued, what if you have a 30,000, $50,000 payout? That might just kill all revenue.
Yeah,
Um,
well, that's where you hope that something else kicks in, right? So the homeowner's insurance or your liability insurance or something like that.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, we can only
or
hope.
if it's Airbnb, hopefully, you just fingers crossed that it was Airbnb, and then you don't have to worry about your self insurance anyway.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? We don't think about the RAM, like what could happen. There's so much, and with more, like when you really think about it, JJ, you think about 250 units. How much turnover do you have per month in those units? What is the average guest count across all those units? And you start running the numbers, you start realizing how many people are going through those houses, and what is the possibility that it's just a law of big numbers? What a possibility that somebody drowns in your pool? What is the possibility that somebody brings a gun and shoots the window out? What is the possibility that there's gang violence? What is the possibility that, I mean, there's always going to be risk, and the name of the game is just to offset risk as much as possible. I think that's the way I
Yeah,
look at
yeah,
it.
mitigate risk, right? And
Yeah.
you had kind of started talking about it earlier about, how do you eliminate issues to make your business run smoothly. And and like I said, it's hard to do that, but I think an
Hmm.
interesting way to do that we've started doing is using AI to analyze our negative reviews
Mm.
and pick out the bits and pieces out of negative reviews that people said, maybe the latch on the screen door is broken
What do you guys
or
use for that?
So we're doing this internally actually. So I have it all
Oh,
coming in through Airtable, and it's analyzing all of our reviews to
okay.
see.
Let's
Yeah,
let's do it. That is a great transition. Obviously, there's one thing that really stands out with what you do really well, and that's like using these webhooks essentially, which like for anybody that doesn't know what that means, it's just like connecting two different pieces of software or figuring out like different like custom systems that you can create that makes operations a lot easier at a high level. So maybe you can share what are some of the key operational systems that you have in your business that are very unique to maybe internal operations that maybe you can share with other people so they can create it themselves maybe.
yeah. So our kind of like hub would be in Slack. So a lot of things go through Slack. That's our internal communications. Everybody talks in Slack. Our cleaners are in there, our guest services, maintenance, everybody is in
Mhm.
Slack to talk about whatever the issues are. And I've kind of tied in a bunch of things using Zapier to like send notifications. If something happens, then something goes into Slack, right? So all of our task management, whether it's, an internal admin task where, hey, you need to go update the listing photos for this listing, right? That's a task that then gets into Slack and then tags that person, and then that person can communicate with whoever else needs to know about that stuff in Slack. And then same thing if a guest issue's reported, we have a guest app that if they, a guest says, hey, the beds weren't made to my liking or whatever, and they
Mhm.
report an issue, that pops into Slack, tags our guest services team. Our guest services team can dispatch that out to
Ooh.
whoever else needs to do it.
So you have AI that analyzes every.
Right
Okay.
now we have AI just looking at reviews.
Okay.
So just in the comments of reviews, right? If they leave a positive or negative review, but there's an action item there, it'll pull out that action item so that we can easily see, like I said, like the screen door needs a new latch or something that might be small and not be reported during the stay, but is happening after. And I think that's a great way that you can start being proactive about some of those smaller things and looking at those negative reviews. And it doesn't have to be AI driven. We use it because it's easy to do it like in mass, right? Because
Hmm.
who's got the time to sit there and read hundreds of reviews and then start typing out those little things. So
Where do you get the? How do you analyze the reviews when they come in through email?
we've got a couple of different things going on. We use SuiteOp, which has some of that in SuiteOp,
Can you
and
explain
then
Suite Op? Because I've heard about a lot about it. What's that? How does that operate with hospitality? Like, what is the operation of that? What does it
yeah,
replace?
SuiteOp is doing some amazing things. They are what we've started out using them for was the guest portal side of things. So
Mm,
the guest portal is when somebody books, they get a link to their reservation
mm,
and they'll go through and do a verification process, do a selfie, sign our agreement, do all of that good stuff. There's
yeah.
some upsells in there too, which is great. Do you want an early check-in,
Hmm.
late checkout? And then they'll get the check-in instructions and it's got the step-by-step, here's a picture of where you park, here's a picture of how to
Cool.
find your unit, all those different steps. And then, the door code, all of that stuff is in SuiteOp. But then additionally, they're working on rolling out a lot more cool stuff. And so one of those is review analysis. So they have a check-in and check-out survey. So you do the survey first, and then depending on the survey, it'll send you over to leave a public review somewhere, or it'll keep it internally and it'll take those reviews internally to analyze those.
Got it. Dang. How are you achieving that? How do you structure that flow?
So the guest will leave a review, and either it pulls in from the OTA or
Uh-huh.
it goes to Google. And either way, all of that is kind of being centralized into our Slack channel. And then SuiteOp also has a portal for it. And then we've gone a step further to take any guest complaints that come in and then centralize all those into Airtable. So we've got it kind of in a couple of different places right now. The ultimate goal is to have, one dashboard to rule them all, right? So if that's going to be
Mhm.
SuiteOp or Airtable or, something else new in the future, we'll see. But for
That's
now, we've
crazy.
got, some of our reviews are being analyzed in SuiteOp. Our internal complaints are being analyzed in Airtable, and everything is going through Slack.
Wait,
And
internal complaints?
Yeah, so if a guest sends a message or sends in we have a complaint form as well. So if they send in we don't call it a complaint form. I think it's a
Wait.
issue form.
You wait, the guest fills out an issue form
hmm
instead
Through,
of going through Airbnb or
mhm.
through the platform, they just
Yeah, we try and keep them like most communications off of the platform.
interesting. Okay. That's smart because then they're
Yeah,
instead
we
of
don't
leaving
want
that
to
in a
open up
review.
a resolution request like right off the bat
Hmm.
and then involve Airbnb support and have them. I've seen some messages from Airbnb support. They're like, respond within 1 hour or we're gonna act on this. Right?
Wow.
So, which I mean, we do have 24/7 coverage and normally can respond within an hour to Airbnb support, but I still would rather keep those communications just on our end. So, not involving any third party support if I have an
Yeah.
option to.
Because then it's in their hands,
Yeah.
and you can't really dictate what's going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So inside of our guest portal in SuiteOp, there's a, report an issue button. And then that report an issue comes in to our internal team in Slack and they can decide what they're going to do with that issue.
Mm,
Is it an issue that's like 911, somebody get out there right now? Is it an issue that can wait till after checkout? Either way, obviously the guest is the priority there, so we need to make sure that we talk to the guest and
mm,
everything's okay. But then, like I said, then it becomes a task to decide when that task is complete.
got it. Cool. Is there any other systems or little fun Zapier apps or workflows that you built?
Jeez. Yeah, I mean, we have a lot, and it's me and one other guy on our team kind of just spend a lot of time geeking out on some of these things. It's what we enjoy doing. So, yeah, we've built quite a bit in Zapier and Airtable. All of our task management is now in Zapier, in
Mm,
Airtable. And we did that primarily for billing purposes. We were having trouble being able to track what we're billing owners and people on the team were getting things done, but then not necessarily communicating that things were done, right? So say there was the toilet was broken in one of the units and guest services did their job. They reached out to the maintenance people. The maintenance people did their job and got the toilet working. The guest is happy. Everything's great. But then we missed charging the owner for their
oh my
toilet being
God.
broken. And so it's like,
That
wait, we're
happens a
doing all this
lot.
good stuff, and then it's not getting billed for. So we ended up building a custom system around that because we were just having trouble with the current systems that we had. So sometimes custom works out, and sometimes it's completely overkill. You just have to decide,
Yeah.
for your own business, why you're building those things, and is there something that already answers that?
Yeah. Wow. That is always my concern, right? Like, at what point is the customization actually an overkill and it creates more work than it actually helps?
Yeah. And I mean, I don't have an answer for that. I've found myself many times where I'm like, I've built something and I think it's great. And then it turns out in practice, nobody wants to use it because it's too complicated or it's repetitive or something like that. So I've spent a lot of time on the stuff that I have built trying to think, how can I make this as simple as possible, as foolproof as possible, make it
Hmm.
so that it's actually making people's lives easier and not harder or more
Yeah.
complicated, right? And that's what we did with the maintenance. We were like, why, we were using Breezeway for maintenance, which I love Breezeway. We use it for cleaning, and we were just having issues getting our staff to use it the way that it was supposed to be used. I don't
Hmm.
know, there were just too many steps or we weren't using it correctly. I'm not sure what the issue was, but I said, let's just try something different. We'll try it on Airtable, see how it works. And so far now I think we've added how much it was. It's a lot of money, a couple thousand a month just in changing over for owner's charges. So,
So you missed $1,000 a month of owner charges because of using Breezeway?
oh, I would say thousands. But
Wow.
again, I wouldn't blame Breezeway as much as I would blame,
No,
our,
it's
our own,
operational.
yeah,
Yeah.
our own operation process of just not using it to its full advantage and being able to like charge owners easily. So don't want that as a sound bit. JJ lost thousands of dollars using Breezeway.
Breezeway
But
sucks. No, it's
yeah, no,
operation. Yeah.
definitely not that. It was just the way that we were using it, and
Mhm.
um, yeah. So in that case, I made something that was
Uh-huh.
Just so simple, just a simple form. Here's your task. Here's the things that you needed to complete. And then that form flows right into our monthly closeout. So we say, okay, this guy did this task and he's billed at this hourly rate. We bill the
Oh,
owner
they
this much.
sign the house in the form.
Yeah, that it's already assigned in the task. And so as soon as he completes it, then it gets pushed over to our owner charges table. So it's all
Ah,
just kind of in one place now, whereas
yeah.
before it would be in different places, and then month close, we have to go look in different places to see different tasks being done and that sort of thing. So,
Wow. Yeah, these are the things like our COO deals a lot with that. So I kind of want to get back to her and ask her like, "Hey, do you think we're losing money on leakage?" There's another thing that like, for example, we started implementing recently that we didn't realize that there could be leakage with, which is assigning charges.
oh
So
yeah.
like when somebody makes a payment on a credit card, not assigning that to the owners, and then we have to take the financial burden of that.
Mhm.
And so that just blew my mind. So we started using Top Key. I know there's a lot of other software. We'll see how it goes. We just implemented it,
Well,
but it's
we
starting.
love we love Top Key.
You guys use Top Key?
Yeah, we and that's another one where thousands, I mean thousands and thousands of dollars a month that we just never even, I don't know. It didn't occur to us when we started the business that we needed to be charging supplies back to owners, especially when you think, oh, it's $10 here, it's $10 there, it's not a big deal,
Oh, it
we'll just
adds
cover
up.
this. But before you realize it, again, it adds up to thousands a month of just unaccounted for expenses. And when you start something as kind of a side hustle, you're not really thinking from a business standpoint of how can
Yep.
we optimize and make the most money in every part of the business. Obviously now our mindset's changed a little bit, but yeah, Topkey is great for that too. I mean, sends out a
How's your
text
experience
message.
been? Like, what do
Oh,
you guys? How do you use it?
it's been absolutely amazing. They listen to users, which is great too. So we've come plenty of times asking for, this is our issue. The most recent one was Amazon purchases. Amazon, when you buy Amazon purchases, they bill you when it gets mailed. So
Hmm.
if you have this big cart full of stuff, it's really hard to tell what item was
Hmm.
what. And they just released that feature not too long ago from customer
Hmm.
feedback of being able to split up all those charges to say this was for this property and this was for this property. And so that's been great. But yeah, every time we have an idea, they actually listen to it, actually implement it. And
That's the
I
beauty.
I would say that's probably one of the best technologies in our stack is being able to,
Whoa,
yeah,
that's a big statement. Why do
yeah.
you
I
say
mean,
that?
it's crazy. It's such a simple thing, right? You make a charge, you text the person, and they say
Yeah,
what.
hold on. Yeah, JJ, let's explain to people that are listening, is being like, dude, they're probably like Googling Top Key right now. And please don't do it if you're listening to this while driving. But it's just, JJ, do you mind explaining like what Top Key is? Just, by
Yeah.
the way, we're
So
not getting paid by
I
Top Key.
know
This
that
is
not
it's a
sponsored.
free ad for them. Yeah, we're not sponsored at all, but you could say you heard about it through Patrick Real Estate Show with JJ on it. Like, that's cool. Just give us some cred, but we don't get anything for it. But go for it, JJ.
Yeah,
How does it work?
so I mean, from its most basic level, each employee gets their own credit card, and whenever they make a charge, they'll get a text message prompting them to say what was this purchase for and what property was it for. And then all of your charges get categorized by properties. So then at the end of the month, you can push all those charges over to your owner statement through your PMS, and you can add a markup if that's something that you do as well. And it pushes right over to the owner statement. So like I said, it's a very simple concept of a charge gets made and you load in the property that the charge is made for.
Yeah.
But, it's just one of those things that you don't think about it until you're in it, and then you're trying to categorize charges from the past month, and you're like,
You're
what the heck
chasing
was
down
this
people. People are
99
like, I
cent
don't remember
charge
making
at,
that charge.
at Ace Hardware? I don't know what that
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what's interesting, I'm excited for and this is, they're working on it, but this is not like released yet. So don't like go out there and expect it. But they're looking into this. The inventory stuff, that seems very interesting. I'm excited about that because we do a lot of inventory. And I know that we don't bill for every inventory item that gets taken out of our warehouse, and I just know that there's so much leakage there. That would be very interesting for us.
That's something where we probably still can improve on. And
Mhm.
I know Breezeway also has inventory, and I've
You
talked
do.
to some other managers who have built out kind of their own inventory systems. But yeah, I think that's an issue. Luckily we don't keep that much inventory. I
Mhm.
have seen some managers that have, I mean, they have inventory, full rooms of
Yeah,
everything you can imagine, like
that's what we
streaming
have.
TV sticks, space heaters, fans, like all this stuff. And we don't do that. It makes sense. It really does. You probably save in labor costs, but at the
Mhm.
same time, we have stores nearby, so it's easy to just go run to the store. I think if you're in a market where the store is not nearby, then, like Jackson Hole is a good example of, you don't really have stuff in that area that you can just go
Mhm.
run over to Walmart. Walmart's an hour drive away, so you kind of have to have the inventory there if you want to
Yeah.
avoid issues, like you were saying earlier, right?
Mhm.
If you realize that Roku TV sticks are always breaking, why don't you just stock them and then you don't have to worry about it, right?
Yeah, if they're not on, what if they're not there? They're just not
Right.
stocked.
Yeah, and then
Like
you have
you're
a
like
big issue
screwed.
because now you have a guest that's
Yeah,
upset that their TV's not working. So,
yeah. So, it limits bad issues. So we keep it. Now I'm curious, other than TopKey, what other systems are you using that, people use at scale that maybe are not like obviously everyone uses the dynamic pricing, all that kind of stuff. But at scale, what are you guys using that really helps operationally make things more efficient?
let me think. I mean, it's one that I would imagine most managers of scale are using, but something worth noting is a knowledge base, right?
Mm,
Building out all of the information about all of your properties, about your internal processes, that sort of thing. I know you've talked a lot about this, Patrick, about building a strong knowledge base and how it also increases your exit price, right? So you can be able to just say, here's the company, here's all the SOPs that go with it. We use a software called Slab for that, which is,
Slab.
yeah,
I've never
so
heard of that.
it's just a very simple, kind of um, page builder type of knowledge base software.
Cool.
But that one's free. That's why we use it.
Oh,
But
look at that little tip. JJ with the tips today. Hey, you can get started with 1 to 5 units and start building that out because you're going to eventually have VAs take over at some point, and so they need to have the information.
I mean, build from day one too. That is, even if it seems silly, if you're the one answering all of the messages, like why am I going to go through and build this out right now? But trust me, it's so hard to go back and build it versus if you just start at the beginning and start building from
Yeah, JJ,
scratch.
what if we told you you had 50 properties that are all in your head, and then like you're like, oh well, let's build a knowledge base now of 50 properties. Now JJ has to sit there and recite everything that he knows about all 50 properties. That just sounds like hell. So 100% having the ability to just do that as you go is
Yeah.
probably ideal. Yeah, that's cool. So knowledge base, anything else that you want to know? Big softwares that you guys use? You guys use Suite Ops, so you guys did
Yeah,
mention
Suite
that.
Ops great. And then I mean otherwise we're gonna pretty simple tech stack, dynamic pricing, property management system,
Yeah,
Breeze
the
Wave
task
cleaning,
management, I
top
think is a
key.
big. I think just going back to that, I think that is probably the biggest, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's the biggest gap that I see is the idea of how do we feel there's so much communication happening across all platforms. How do we decipher what tasks to create through all those communication channels? And how do we manage those communication channels? That's like a big one. I know Slack does a lot of that, but it seems almost like it's not really built for that. It's not built for customer support really, but we add all of our owners on Slack just to give you some insight
Oh,
there.
really? Okay.
We add all of our owners in Slack. We add all stakeholders on Slack. Maintenance, cleaners, owners, everybody. And then we have all the communication go through there. That's how we do it. But I don't think it's like you can't create tasks really unless maybe we connect at money.com and that's how we create tasks. But it's not like a true all-in-one, hey, we have everything in one place kind of thing. So
So a little plug for Host AI. I think that's what they're
yeah,
building
that's what they're
towards.
building. Yep.
So I'm excited. We're actually just about to start with their
Oh,
owner inbox for Host AI to get
yes.
started there. So that See, that seems to be kind of the direction they're going, though, is
That's
internal comms, external comms, management, all of
yep,
that.
yep. I just had him on my pod literally like three people ago or 2 people
Oh,
ago.
nice.
Like he was just talking about how he's building that, and I was like, dude, this is genius. This is where we're not having somebody fill this gap. So cool. So
Yeah,
you see that
I
there.
think that's going to be amazing once all that stuff kind of pulls together. Because, like you were saying, now it's automatically pulling tasks out of your conversations. You've got your internal communications going on with your team, so maybe you could
Yeah,
replace Slack at some point.
yeah.
Um, yeah, we'll see
I
we'll
don't
see
think
how they build. I
replacing
mean,
Slack. I don't know. I
I don't
think
know.
Slack.
I don't know. You could maybe. Who knows?
That's
It seems
tough.
like a lot to be able to replace Slack too. I don't know.
Cole has big visions for that, but I don't think he can replace Slack. I know he has those internal dialogues you can do, but there's something about having Slack where you can have, I don't know. It's just
Yeah,
internal company dialogue and how it's all kind of documented and filed away really nicely because we use threads. Like it's just so much easier.
right.
But I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, I don't know. I'm hoping.
I mean, that would be awesome, right? That's the goal because the
Yeah.
hardest part is, especially in our industry, is everything's so fragmented, right? You have something that solves one issue and maybe it has a feature that you need, but it doesn't do everything all in one, right? So some of these, like for instance, tasks, right? Guesty has tasks, Breezeway has tasks, SweetUp has tasks, Host AI has tasks, but which one do you use, right? There's five different platforms that you pay for, and
Hmm.
all of them have tasks, but you don't want tasks in all these different places.
Yeah.
And then if you add in, something like a ClickUp or like you said, Monday, now you've got even another place that's not integrated with your other one. So that's where it gets really tricky being an operator and choosing
Yes.
your tech stack. And it's easy to, we fell into this early on of doing too many different ones, right? So we had ClickUp for our admin tasks, but that also kind of some property tasks ended up there, but then some property tasks were in other places like Breezeway. And yeah, it's tricky. You don't
It's
want
too
that. So
much.
that's why I built everything in Airtable. Now
That
it's
makes
all in
sense.
one place.
And Airtable's a database you can pull from. You can build a lot of stuff with Zapier through that, so which is nice.
Mhm.
I'm curious. Yeah, let's get into the last three questions. I want to kind of wrap this up, and I have a special question just for you, which I'm gonna kind of give you a little more insight there. But first question, like what knowledge base do you think has been most instrumental for you in just anything real estate related or personal life? Like, was there like a specific podcast that you listened to that changed your life, or like an educate any kind of educational resource for that matter, book, videos?
Yeah, I honestly think it's industry networking that I have learned the most in. So whether it's in conferences and getting to talk to other property managers, or we're in a mastermind as well. And so, it's a paid mastermind. SDR Directors does masterminds for all different levels of property managers, whether you're just starting out or higher level. He also has like business development specific ones, so different operators, different people in your company can join that. And I think that's a great way to learn, is to talk to other people who have done it. I like books. I enjoy reading all different kinds of books. I've read a lot of ones written by industry leaders, but at the end of the day, I think talking to your peers who have done something, especially if they've done it recently, and they've just grew a little bit larger than you, or they've implemented something you were thinking about implementing. I find that a lot more valuable than somebody who has written a book
Yeah, I
to
find it
do that
valuable even
sometimes.
talking to you, JJ.
Oh, I find it valuable talking to you. So
That's awesome, man. Well, cool. Second thing, I do want to talk about, because I think this is important. I think I'm really bullish on what you're doing, and I'm excited for what you're doing. So I'm just gonna ask here, what like I know you just got elected on VRMA. Congratulations. For the people that don't know, VRMA is vacation rental. I'm gonna butcher it. Actually, can you say it? What is it? VRMA?
yeah, the Vacation Rental Managers Association.
Managers Association. Yes, cool. I was like, what is the M again? Okay, Vacation Rental Managers Association. It's the biggest vacation rental resource slash events slash membership that you can join and learn everything about vacation rentals, advocacy, policies. The conferences are amazing. So Phoenix conference, obviously we chatted, JJ. But with that, you got elected on the board. So that means you get to decide and help structure what's going to happen with the future of VRMA. So I want to ask you, what do you have in the plans? What are you thinking about? Like, what's kind of like, what's the goal here?
Yeah, I mean, so the goal, one of my primary drivers and reasons to join was, how can we improve the ROI for members, right? Make it this no-brainer of why would I not join VRMA? Provide that value to where there's so much value that you can't justify not being a member.
It's like,
That's
how do you make an offer that's so good that you can't say no to, right? That's the
exactly,
whole Alex
exactly. And
Hormozy.
I think, you know, a lot VRMA does so much that's not seen by the membership, and I think some of it's by communication and some of it's just behind the scenes, right? Like they haven't done a great job of getting the word out to let all of the members know what they do, and they end up just being seen as this is a conference. But there's so many other industry
Mhm.
conferences, and now they're competing against other industry conferences, which is great. I love the other industry conferences. Like I think, were you at IMN? I feel like
Yeah,
we might have crossed paths before at
yeah.
IMN
And
as well, which is a
I
great
mean,
conference.
it's an amazing conference, yeah. But there's a lot of a lot more that happened in 2020 to 2024,
Exactly.
including my own.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah,
I think those are all great things, and I think people should go to multiple different conferences. But Verma is an association, so they do a lot more, like you said, with
Mhm.
advocacy, raising money, fighting for smart regulation, and those sorts of things that other people putting on other conferences aren't doing.
Don't have.
So there's different costs associated with an association versus somebody putting on a conference. And so I think like building that ROI and there's all kinds of educational resources and certifications and that sort of stuff that goes into being a member of VRMA too. And so that's my goal is just kind of build on that and just learn more about the association. I mean, it's been around much longer than either of us have been in the industry, right? So
Yep.
just kind of learning from how it came about and where it's going, I think it's going to be a really good opportunity.
That's amazing. I'm excited for you. I know you're bringing that young energy on there, which is what honestly what everyone thinks it needs. Like yeah, 100% super pumped. There's a lot of competition. Like all the property managers doing conferences now.
Hmm.
There's like IMAN, like you said. I think there's isn't DARM happening?
Yeah, Dharm is happening right now as
Dharma?
well,
Yeah.
which is supposed to be a great conference. So
Yeah,
there's a lot of really cool opportunities in the industry for people to learn and to network. And so
for
I
sure.
think, and that wasn't available, when VRMA got started. So now they kind
Mhm.
of have to find their footing of, where are we going? What are we offering our members
Yep.
more than just a once a year, twice a year, three times a year
Yeah,
conference, right? I think there's a lot more value there.
that's awesome. That's gonna be really exciting for you. Last question. What does the future hold for JJ?
Oh, great question. Great question. Yeah, so there's a couple of things on our horizon. So as I mentioned, we do laundry in-house. We would love to expand that side of the business and start doing more laundry for hotels, other vacation rental
Mm,
managers, that sort of thing. We have the facility, we have the investment in the equipment, and so we're kind of looking to grow that side of the business and kind of grow that business model. That's one thing that's definitely on the horizon here in 2025. Another one is software. So I'm
mm.
hoping to get, I didn't mention this in the beginning, but my first company that I started was a software company that I had sold. And so that's actually
You got
how I got,
acquired.
yeah, yeah. So
Which company?
I got acquired by Ventori. So I had
Ah,
a lead generation company that was a software and that got acquired by Ventori. So I'm hoping to kind of get back into software and do some more software
what would you do in
things.
software?
So that's a good question. That's a good question. I'm always looking for new things and things that I would actually use, right? Because I think you don't want to make a solution for a problem that doesn't exist. It's much better
Yep.
to
Problem
solution
to
for
create solution.
find a problem, right? So
Yeah.
I recently made a concierge app which we do have a paying customer for. So that's great. And so
It's my mom. No, I'm kidding.
right, yeah.
That's
But
awesome.
yeah, so that's something that, I'm always looking for opportunities there for software, and
Mm,
we'll see where that takes us. But, software is a great thing to be in, even
I
if it's
love
a
that.
small side hustle kind of thing. So always look into that. And then lastly, like I mentioned, we have two condo hotels right now, and we've got some interesting opportunities working with developers to potentially launch more. I think that's kind of the direction the larger hospitality industry is heading, of it's professionally managed like a hotel, but you also have all the amenities of a short-term rental,
Hmm.
right? So I think that's, next 5 years, we're going to see a lot of bigger hotel chains getting into apartment style living. And so I am kind of heading that direction ourselves and hoping that we get there. So we have single family rentals, but we also have hotels that are, potentially even a flagged hotel that we operate.
I mean, it's one to many, right? The relationship is you have one owner and you have a lot of properties. It's like, why not?
Right.
One of the hardest parts of this business, and people won't say it, but the guests, yes, but I think, sorry guys, the owners can be difficult sometimes. Not all owners, but when you have one owner and you have a lot of properties, it kind of makes things a lot sweeter, a little
Yeah.
nicer. So that's cool. Awesome, JJ. So last thing. If people are like, "Wow, JJ is so cool. How can I get in touch with him? How can I chat with him? How can people reach you?"
Uh, LinkedIn's probably best for me. So I'm just JJ King on LinkedIn. You can also shoot me an email at jj@beachsidevr.com.
Sweet. Well, thanks, JJ. Thanks for sharing all that you do, and I appreciate it, man. I hope to see you at the next conference, dude. Like, let's link up for sure. And I'm excited to see everything you do with VRMA. So, man, we'll keep in touch, man. But thanks for hopping on the pod.
Yeah, thanks so much, Patrick. I'll talk to you later.
And that's a wrap. Thank you for listening to the Patrick Real Estate Show. If you found this episode helpful, please give us a follow and leave us a 5-star review. Your support truly means a lot. And connect with Patrick in the show notes below. Until next time.